Hey folks, I'm Dave Wessels, and in theory this is csci.viu.ca software engineering. I know in theory we're entirely in person this semester, but I know there's a few people who are stuck in a position where they can't get here in the first couple of days. So I just wanted to put together a quick video running you through some of the sort of administrative stuff that we're going to talk about in the first lecture on Wednesday. So I'm just going to run through kind of the course outline, a few administrative bits and pieces, give you a bit of a recap on where the course is going to go, and I will let other matters take over from there, and I'll talk about that as we get there. First, I am going to get rid of the talking head down in the corner here because it drives me crazy. Let's see. So again, it's a software engineering course. Basically, we're running under the assumption that you've got a decent amount of first year programming experience, and we're going to kind of pick up where that leaves off. So as far as the administrative side of things goes, again, the course is 265 software engineering. The prerequisite is a minimum C in Comp Sci 161. If you don't have that or don't have the equivalent, then it is important to come see me because it's going to be really difficult to get through the course without that sort of basic solid first year programming background. But we will get there. Again, course website is this beastie, so csci.viu.ca, tilde wesselsd, that's my Linux ID, csci265, and then so that's the main course page. And then you'll find a link to the outline there, you'll find a link to the lecture resources, the lab resources, etc., etc. So most things for the course, the information is going to be provided through that particular website. We will use VIU Learn for some quizzes as well, but I'll talk about that a little bit later. So again, the idea for the course is you can go through and read the outline for yourself, but it's pretty much to give you an understanding of the mechanics and the processes and the problems that are involved as we get into the design and implementation and maintenance of larger and larger software systems. So again, right now I just want to focus on the administrative side of things. So that's me, Dave Wessels. My email address is david.wessels@viu.ca. Other than corralling me in person during office hours or before or after labs or lectures, that's the best way to get a hold of me. I do have a phone in my office, but I rarely remember to check for messages, so it's really not a recommended way of getting in touch with me. Email is far more reliable. My office is in the physics building, 315, in room 222, so it's right at the end of a little cul-de-sac on the second floor. Tentatively speaking, my office hours will be Mondays from 2:30 to 3:30 and Fridays from 12:30 to 1:30. If those don't work for you, again, catch me before or after class or fire me an email and we'll work out something else. And if you're not terribly comfortable with in-person office hours given the circumstances, again, send me an email and we can work out a Zoom session. I don't mind. So again, the delivery mode, this is supposed to be entirely in person. I guess we'll see how that goes as Delta in this term grinds along, but we'll see how things go. There is no official textbook for the course. We're going to be using a lot of online resources, and I'm going to point you at a lot of different places. If you are looking for, if you really like having something physical to grab onto, there are a couple of decent textbooks out there. Well, a lot of decent textbooks on software engineering. A couple in particular that are older but have some really good ideas in them. And again, the concepts of software engineering haven't changed much. I guess the fundamentals of good code design haven't changed much. The tools have gotten much better, and there are a couple of new methodologies that have come out that we'll talk about, but a lot of the fundamentals at the lower level are still basically the same. So, again, we'll talk about all the different materials as we wind our way through the course. And again, for the most part, the material is going to be posted on my website, and that's the way we'll get at things. A lot of different tools that we'll be using, and I'll talk about those as we get further into the labs and further into the material. Timetable, we're Mondays, Wednesdays, we've got 90-minute sessions in building 370 in room 111. And then on Fridays, we were scheduled for building 250, room 125 at 1:30. That might actually get moved to a different room, but we'll have an update on that before Friday. The labs are the ones that are scheduled in building 315, room 115, so they're right on the corner of the ground floor. The labs will start in the second week. So there aren't labs in the first week of lecture for software engineering. And the labs are the ones that are scheduled at 9:30 or 10:30. You'll be registered in one of those two sections when you registered in the course. As far as assessment goes, we're going to have a mix of quizzes, lab exercises, a lab project, and a final exam. So it'll be 30% for the 3 quizzes, 10% each, 40% for the labs plus the project. So there's going to be 6 lab exercises. I'll take your best 5 worth 6% each, and then 10% for a final project submission. And the labs and the project are going to kind of get intertwined in terms of the content that they drive at. But we'll talk about that as we get, again, further into the material. And then there'll be a 3-hour final exam scheduled, time and location to be announced when the university gets around to it. That'll be worth 30%. The lab portion and the final exam portion are must pass, right? You've got to pass the lab portion of the course and you've got to pass the final exam. What I will probably do, and typically have done in the past, is if you miss a quiz or if you do better on your final exam than on one of the quizzes, then I'll throw out the quiz mark and just replace it with the better mark from your final exam. But again, we'll talk about that later on. Topics and things we'll get into as I talk more about the actual course content a little bit later, but it's pretty much running through kind of the environment that we're going to be working in, the general processes that you're following in software development, the kinds of tools and techniques that you're going to need for development of larger scale projects. And if you have a look through the course learning outcomes as you read your way through the course outline, you'll find that most of them are geared along those lines, making sure that you do understand what's important about the design and development process, the different stages that you're likely to go through, the different kinds of tools and techniques that you're going to wind up needing. Let's see, you will be given, if you don't have them already, you'll be given accounts on our Linux systems. So these are the department Linux servers as opposed to your the accounts that you're using for the rest of your VIU work. And again, we'll talk about these as we get into the labs. If you don't have account information yet, if you didn't take first year with us essentially, then we'll go through and I'll give you your account information in the first lab in the second week of classes. Again, if you've got any kind of challenges in terms of accessing the material, please see Disability Access Services. They can help a lot. They can arrange for special accommodations for pretty much whatever it is you need, but you do need to go down and see them and make arrangements for it. Feel free to ask me questions if you've got any, and I can point you at the right people who can give you the right answers. Again, since we're going through the sort of administrative side of things, as we're going through the grading process, if you get a mark that you don't think is correct, you do have the opportunity to come back and talk to people about it. So if I mark something and you think I've made a mistake in the marking, then come and tell me what you think the mistake is, and I will attempt to be reasonable. And if it's because again, mistakes happen, especially when we're marking things as complex as some of the stuff that we're going to get into here. Or if I make a mistake in adding up your marks, or if I make a mistake in posting your grade, let me know. I don't mind fixing things like that. We'll use the standard grade scale for VIU. Do make sure that you familiarize yourself with the code of conduct for the university. We are going to kind of adhere to this pretty strictly. All of the things that you have to do have to be your own work. You can't do collaborative work in this course. You can't help people out with the project or the assignment or the lab exercises or the quiz answers, right? People have to do their own work. Helping each other out in terms of just generally learning the tools and the languages and things is fine, but everybody has to do their own work when it comes to the actual assessment. All right, so that's pretty much the quickie rundown of the course outline. Again, the other content that's out there, we've got a variety of lecture resources. And so, of course, last year, since everything was pretty much online, I've got a slew of different YouTube videos out for the different topics that you can use to refer to. And I'll try and let you know which ones are relevant for the different lecture topics that we're covering every week, and the slides for them are there, and any other resources that I used for them are posted there. So you can go through and have a look at that. The lab resources, again, we'll go through and I'll update this as we go through, but there's going to be a half dozen different lab exercises, and I'll take your best 5, and we'll talk about those as we get deeper into things. Essentially, a lab every couple of weeks is the way, a lab deliverable every couple of weeks. And what will happen is in the lab sessions themselves, we'll work on whatever the current lab exercise happens to be, and talk about the project and talk about code standards and all that kind of thing. Let's see, there will be a project, and if you hit the webpage for that right now, you will find out not much at all. But I'll talk about the course project as we get a little deeper into things. And again, it's going to be tied pretty closely to what's going on in the labs. And again, we'll have a series of quizzes, so 3 quizzes and then the final exam, and I'll try and keep things up to date on the quiz page here in terms of what's coming up, what you have to study to get ready for it, and what kinds of questions you can expect on them, and all that kind of thing. So that was pretty much the idea I wanted to give you for the administrative side of things. Again, if you hit the lecture resources, the other things that we'll be doing in that very first lecture are going through the kind of first couple of sessions that are listed in the September 6th to 10th here. So we will talk about design and implementation challenges for larger projects. We might get a little bit into the Linux side of things, but most of that we'll tackle on the Friday session. So if you miss the Wednesday, or if you miss the Wednesday and the Friday, you've got a chance to go through and at least catch up on the ideas if you won't get the exact content. It's probably a good idea to track down somebody who's actually at the lecture to make sure you can pick up on anything you might have missed that's different, because obviously as I'm going through lecturing in person, I don't lecture from slides in person, right? We talk about the different topics, we discuss them, I go through the material and the examples, and of course it's a different experience working on the board than online anyways. So it will be a different experience, and the content will be somewhat different, but at least the topics are pretty much the same, and the highlights should all be the same. All right, that should be everything I babble about for now. I hope to see everybody in class as soon as possible.